The other benefit of getting rid of the Tories or reducing them down to a very small rump is because, in my opinion, the Tory party as they exist now exist almost solely to gatekeep and control the discourse and stop the discourse getting, too radical, as they put it. So the more voices we have, like Farage or some of these reform people, even people like yourselves, who aren't actually part of any kind of party system but are speaking from the outside, um, that will effectively be the proxy opposition then to Labour. And if you think about it, if Labour are having to tack right in order to appeal to the country, in order to prove to the country that they're not a bunch of crazy communists, which is the Blair strafe right play, then the opposition to them has to be further on the quote unquote right, and the whole, Overton window shifts more towards, the sorts of things that we're interested in, like sorting out immigration. And I mean, frankly, I think it's a good thing that the whole election now seems to be focused squarely on reducing immigration. 5 years ago, the manifesto that Starmer put out would have been called far right. Let's face it. So these are good things as far as I'm concerned, and it's actually been facilitated by the uselessness of the Tories. So I actually see that a very, very poor result for the Tories is necessary for what needs to happen in this country, because frankly, the country is in an awful, awful state. The worst I've ever seen it in my lifetime. So, yeah, that's my view.
I do have probably 2 points of contention that I want your thoughts on about what will happen with Labour. Because so Cunley Druckper, favourite independent journalist, did put on Twitter that he thinks Keir Starmer is going to be ruthless pragmatism with sort of like gay race communist aspects. And I think that's true, but I do think there's going to be elements of radicalism that they're not going to be able to hem in quite as much as they would like. So the big tell was yesterday. Mm-hmm. Did you watch that appallingly boring debate on ITV?
I'm afraid I had to tap out after 20 minutes. It was just so bad. It was so
I don't blame you. I wish I could have retained some brain cells as well. Towards the end, they did ask an immigration. I think they asked 2 immigration questions. One immigration question was asked by a guy that looked like the ghost of Enoch Powell, and then another one was about safe legal routes, about the channel crossings. And Keir Starmer kept saying we need safe legal routes like Ukraine and like Afghanistan. And to me, that was an immediate dog whistle, because a couple of weeks ago, they had a debate in Parliament where Labour's shadow immigration minister got up and addressed all the Labour MPs agitating for a pathway for Palestinians to come to the UK, and said they've already drafted a plan for Starmer to sign when he gets into office that allows Palestinians to come over with sponsored visas like the Ukrainians. I mean, that's 200,000 of them. So I wonder if that's going to be exempted from the overall numbers because it's a quote-unquote humanitarian route or a safe route, for example. And then the other one is that with all the pandering that his underlings are doing, I wonder if the party itself will fraction into gay race communism. I mean, I'm only thinking Angela Rayner sitting around trying to plead with the Muslims who wouldn't even look her in the eye, saying, don't worry, we'll recognize Palestine, we'll hold Netanyahu accountable to the international court. Good luck with that. That sort of thing. I wonder if Starmer's even going to stay in long enough to be pragmatic.
Yeah, I mean, these are valid concerns, I would say. They are valid concerns. I mean, I have a theory that Blair and his team have been trying to get rid of Rayner. That's what all those scandals around her, and they failed. So they've still got work to do. But frankly, if they do all of those things, they will have betrayed the country as badly as the Tories have. And then we could be facing a radically different scenario in 5 years' time. Now, the country will have got worse, which will be bad, but we will then be in truly uncharted waters where they won't be able to stop emergent social forces like those behind Reform or Galloway's Workers' Party, as the elites essentially fail to gatekeep out the actual concerns of the people of this country, which they've been trying to do for many years now. It seems like this election, they finally admitted, okay, guys, we've actually messed up here, and we have to try to fix some of the problems. And if they don't, then the country could punish them. Now there is another concern with Labour that people have voiced, which is that they'll become more authoritarian on things like free speech, and they'll try to survey people more and control what is able to be said. Now, I don't see much evidence of that myself. A lot of the a lot of the of places like the Telegraph have been to dig up quotes from the Corbyn era, from the likes of Rayner and Starmer and so on, and say, well, look, these are the sorts of things they were saying 4 years ago. How come they've changed their tune? My view on that is that all of these were essentially Blairite plants playing a long game, and now they've miraculously changed their minds on a whole host of issues, including things like Trident. They were all committed to Trident disarmament 4 years ago. Now suddenly, Keir Starmer will press the nuclear button, and frankly, they have to say these things to be allowed to be the government of this country. The system will not allow a government that is going to denigrate our security services even worse than the Tories have. So
Do
that's my.
you
I mean, yeah.
do you not feel that? So this might be recency bias. Do you not feel that the whole Jess Phillips and other Labour MPs that have gone on to whine about me chatting to Truss in the last week is indicative of the fact that they'll weaponise the online safety bill against the likes of you and me? Because I think the intent is definitely there. It's just whether or not how many Ofcom diversity hires can they staff in one building to actually carry it out.
Well, I mean, I would notice that a lot of the kind of senior Labour people didn't really get involved in that. Starmer didn't make a comment, and frankly, I would describe it as a lack of message discipline from Jess Phillips. And in fact, there's been a concerted effort from Labour to essentially put culture war issues away. The Tories in this election have been trying to lean into culture war issues, and frankly, those now seem like a luxury that belonged to kind of the pre-COVID era. I think we're long past talking about transsexuals and things like that, because we're now talking about like fundamental infrastructure, the water supply, roads, electricity and energy. I mean, whether people can afford to live. I mean, these are, you know, we're talking Maslow's hierarchy of needs here, and the Tories have been that bad that we're reduced to talking about, whether we can drink clean water.
If the lights do start going off, I do think it will validate your theory that it'll accelerate it to 0 seats for Labour too. Because so a couple of years ago, my old job actually used to be in energy, and I tried telling the Tory party that their energy plans were going to be completely crap. So I sat down with a nuclear engineer and war gamed out how much would running Britain on renewables with current technology actually be. And I looked at the Tesla battery system, which is the best one in Australia, and it was something like 3 trillion quid. You'd need all the world's battery manufacturing capacity to stop and be rerouted to the UK for about a decade. And then it would only meet 26% of demands and have no protections against blackouts. And now they're saying that they're going to create a publicly funded energy body and put everyone on the hook for these exact technologies without using any shale gas. I mean, do we think that we're going to have to compromise on realism with that? Do you think Blairism is going to win out? Or do you think that we're going to have like South African style energy situation?
I honestly, I mean, the truth of the situation is that the Blairite solution to basically all problems will be this private-public partnership thing that they constantly talk about in Davos. I mean, frankly, there was a moment in the bit of the debate I watched where they were talking about the NHS, and Sunak kept on badgering him, saying, "Well, what's your plan? What's your plan?" And Starmer notably just kind of froze and didn't say anything. Very poor moment for Starmer in the debate. But the reason Starmer didn't say anything is because I think when they get in, they're going to enact the public-private partnership and start privatizing parts of the NHS. And there are weird incentives in this country where Labour can get away with doing stuff that the Tories can't. Like if the Tories started to try to do stuff like that, the the sky would fall in, media would go crazy. But somehow Labour are able to do these things, just like when Blair brought in tuition fees or uh, lots of other things, ASBOs, hostile environment. All these things happened under the new Labour government, and there was much less outcry in the left-wing press about it because it's Labour. So yeah, whether they'll be able to secure energy security in the near future remains to be seen, because the fact of the matter is the country's buggered. So
You said it, not
these
me.
people aren't these people aren't wizards. And there is an actual element of this election where part of the Tory thinking is like, we don't really want to be in power in the next 5 years because stuff is hitting the fan now.
Well, energy
Um,
bills are about to go up in October, which actually Starmer mentioned at the debate, which I thought was probably a sawn-off shotgun pointed squarely at his own foot if he takes over, because he's still going to have to clean up that mess anyway. But that's definitely one of the reasons that Sunak called it early.
yeah, yeah. I mean, they're basically in damage limitation control. What is the most seats they can possibly salvage from this, and can they stop themselves from being, destroyed as a serious political force and entity? Um, my hope is that the public will see that they've been so bad that we do get close to 0 seats, and that will give room, both in party political sense and in the discourse, for, without the massive obstacle of the Tories there, the discourse in this country can actually move to interesting places, especially if Labour do not become the sensible government that they need to be. Because, I mean, Starmer's sale, let's face it, is the adults are back in the room and we have to get managerial and sort this out, actually sort out some problems. If they fail to do that, the country will see it square on, and all of the betrayal narrative that the Tories are dealing with now, they will have to deal with in 5 years' time. And it will be, I mean, the thing is, people get too locked into like left and right. This is just normal people, all people in the country. Uh, you know, we need a government who actually governs, and we haven't had one.
Yeah, I'm getting a lot of very politically uninvolved people, even like migrant taxi drivers, like the Nigerian dads who drive an Addison Lee, just saying not only were they complaining about Sadiq Khan at the time, that didn't turn out as expected because of high levels of mass migration, but they're just saying everything's bankrupt and they don't trust any of them, which means that there is a large floating sort of energy, a thumos that needs direction that hasn't had a lightning rod to tap into yet. I wonder if Farage has changed the calculation on that. But I want to put a pin in that for a second because, of course, you've nearly single-handedly, because of your hilarious adverts that are very compellingly, you could think Rishi Sunak would be doing them, especially considering the policy that he's driving at. You think 06 is an official policy. You set the tone for what the modus operandi is for the election itself, which is quite funny from doing that from your office just in a corner of Wales. I wanted to contrast two things and see what you made of them. Because of all people that has been calling for the destruction of the Tories for how many years, Peter Hitchens is now saying, well, Starmer's worse, so we need to actually allow containment to take its course and hold your nose and vote for Rishi. Whereas all of the Zoomers, as has been documented in Unheard, are just reporting the rallying cry of 0 seats. So what do you make of things being turned on their head?
I mean, when it comes to Peter Hitchens, I still respect him greatly, and he's been a great influence on all of us. Goes without saying. I mean, he is the godfather, the spiritual godfather of 0 seats, right? Let's give credit where it's due. I think Hitchens has got a psychological disposition to be a patron saint of lost causes. On any given day, everybody's talking about one thing, and Hitchens will be talking about, the clocks going back, or he'll be talking about what are some of his other pet causes like weed and things like this. Debates from like, yeah, exactly. I mean, and now it seems like this actually may be happening. Ever the contrarian, Hitchens has to be, not where the crowd is. And I kind of understand that because I'm a bit of a contrarian too. But um, you know, I disagree. I politely disagree with Peter Hitchens on this. Is a once in a lifetime opportunity for this country to change. I mean, it's like 1906 or something like that, where the Liberals ceased to be a major political force and Labour came in to be the second main party. If you go back to that era, I think the Liberals had a massive landslide in 1906, but then after that they were done forever. And there's a serious chance that could happen to either of the two political parties here, because if Labour really screw up while they're in power, they could end up being the Liberal Party. Or we could get a situation, as has happened in France, where the main two political parties are completely done, and they've been taken. I mean, don't forget, Macron is from a new party, and Le Pen is from a new party, and they're. I know they have a slightly different system to us, so it's harder here. But because it's so hard here, we have to take our chances when we get them, and this is our big chance to break up the duopoly. And I mean, I'll quote Lenin again. Lenin said, "You, when you're trying to strike at a system, you have to strike at its weakest link. Its weakest link, and the weakest link right now is the Tory Party." And if those Conservative MPs who are watching this who are worried, there's talk of people switching over to Reform. Why not stick the knife in? I mean, I've never quite understood this thing of like loyalty to the Tory Party, because the Tory Party has never been loyal to anyone else. I mean, ever. They have a almost perfect history of betraying their voter base. I mean, I don't need to go over repeal of the Corn Laws, expanding the franchise, destruction of the empire, all of those things they promised not to do, and then they did them. So, even Brexit, you could consider a betrayal, considering the manner that they did it in.
Well, they
They
punished us
subverted
with
it.
third world immigration for daring to say we don't want European technocracy, so I think that would qualify.
Well, I mean, let's face it, they subverted it. Many people voted in that. I voted to Remain, of course, but many people who voted for Brexit saw it as a kind of referendum on immigration or something like that. And don't forget, the Tories took that message and they said, the EU is racist and this is an opportunity to be a more global Britain. And then promptly uh, imported millions upon millions of people, the highest level in history. What was it, 43% of all of the people born outside the UK have come in the past 10 years? It's just unacceptable, really.
Well, there's more migration
So
since
that's
between 1066 and the Second World War. So, yeah, pretty bad.
they can't be allowed to come back from this. The message has to be put out. I mean, don't forget there are other things as well. There are operatives within the Tory party, okay, and I'll say this seriously. People who connived against Boris and essentially enacted a soft coup against him, the people who then enacted a coup against Liz Truss and installed Rishi Sunak without asking anybody. He was basically imposed on the country, okay, and then they're going to, like, people like that will seriously, they'll take the message from this result and they'll say, oh, we're being punished because we were too right wing. Now, you think I'm joking? There'll be people in Westminster and people watching this show who will take that as the lesson. And those people have to be kind of sidelined entirely as being relics of a politics that no longer works and has failed this country.
Thank you for watching that clip from Tomlinson Talks. If you liked that and you would like to see more, you can get the full 90-minute show every week on a Wednesday afternoon, live from 3 p.m., only on lotuseaters.com, and all of the other content that my colleagues produce behind the paywall for as little as £5 a month. Thank you very much for supporting us, and I hope to see you there. Until next time, goodbye.